host, Kevin Berrier, and welcome to 5 Dubs Marketing Pros, where we highlight awesome brands and the stories behind them, and maybe just maybe geek out on all things marketing. All right, today I am excited to chat with one of the great entrepreneurs of Frederick, Maryland, who fell in love with fitness while in college. He discovered that by transforming his own energy, athleticism, and mindset, he was able to change his life for the better and knew that he needed to help others do the same. So in 2013, he launched a business that began a lifelong mission to ignite change and raise the bar for leadership in gyms and youth sports across the country. Over the past decade, him and his team have coached more than 1,000 student athletes and adults to become more confident and reach their full potential. I've had the pleasure of working with him, his team, and his brand for the past 7 years, and I can honestly say that I have never seen him veer even an inch from the center line that faces true north, which is his mission. I'd love to introduce my dear friend and mentor, Andrew Simpson of Players Fitness and Performance. Hey,
Thanks
man.
so much for having me, Kevin.
Yeah. Man, who would have thought back in like 2016 that in November of 2023 we'd be sitting on a podcast talking about all of the successes that you've been able to have. I knew from the first moment I met you.
I was going to say, I think it was probably 2014 or 2015 that we first met too.
Probably, yeah. So for everyone listening, again, full disclosure, and I love having my clients on because over the years we've become great friends, and I admire everything that my clients do. And I met Andrew, probably 2014, 2015 at your first location, and I would come into your location and just talk and learn a bit more about your business, and I'd have nothing to present to you because like that was a hard nut to crack in the beginning. So it was like this long courting period where I just got to learn who you are and the why behind what you do, and I think that was the catalyst for kind of where collectively we are now. I can tell you for me as a marketer, where I am now, and hopefully, you feel the same to a degree for you and your company.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to start at the beginning. So tell me about how like how you came up with the name, the brand of Players Fitness and Performance.
Well, it was definitely an accident. I was not some, destined to be entrepreneur. My parents weren't in business. I didn't really know anyone that was in business for themselves. And due to many, many circumstances that I know we do not have time to talk about all of them on today's podcast, but a lot of things led to the only option really being to open up my own business. I had 10 to 15 athletes, mostly student athletes, high school athletes, and a couple of adults that I worked with on personal training. But they just were following me and they wanted to be wherever I was. And all the doors kept closing on the businesses that I was renting space from. And being in a fight club one day, I was renting space from a fight club. And this kind of shares a little bit about the brand. Two guys punching each other in the face while you're trying to teach life lessons to an 8-year-old wasn't the most conducive atmosphere for me to be doing what you now know that we do at PFP, which is help kids, right, develop from the inside out. And while it was very fascinating to watch these boxers punching each other in the face in a boxing ring, it probably wasn't the right place to bring these kids in to work on fitness and teach them lessons. So that was 2014 when I finally realized like I need to take a step and open my own business because all the other doors were closing, and that's what we did.
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's a lot that two people boxing each other can learn about each
That's
other.
right.
But yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think the common perception is that when you hear someone training a youth athlete, the first thing that they'll think of, kind of off of the cuff, is train them to be like, quicker, stronger, more explosive, right? Which is very it's the physicality to how to better a human being. But one thing I've really appreciated about you was, like you mentioned, that you work with athletes from the inside out, including things like their mindset and instilling messages and best practices that they can use, on and off the field. And I think that's a very long game approach, right? It's kind of micro versus macro, and that I think produces a more holistic result. Talk to me a little bit about, because that's very authentic, right? The way that you approach working with youth athletes and even adults too, but with youth athletes, kind of as the example, it is a very authentic and unique approach that you don't see at large in our DMA or really, at least on the East Coast. Tell me how you
Right.
came to the decision to kind of take that holistic approach in working with youth athletes and what the benefits are in doing that.
Yeah, well, from 2009 to 2012, 2013, I was working at another performance training gym, and they were training athletes there. And they trained athletes, physically, but then they also had this component that they said was mental training, but really what it was quote unquote mental toughness training. In other words, make the athlete puke, push them really, really hard, and teach them how to get after it. And there is a place for that, for sure. But I just felt like there was more to it because at that time I was also going through my own personal growth, transformational journey, developing better habits as a person, developing a stronger mindset, able to overcome adversity, these different things in my own life. And I was like, why don't we take these same lessons and start teaching them to the kids, right? Why do we have to get right into the workout? Why can't we spend the first 5 to 7 minutes teaching them how to overcome their fear of failure, teaching them how to get out of their head when they're having negative thinking, teach them how to communicate better in relationships, little things that I had learned along the way. I'm like, why don't we teach the kids how to do this earlier on in life? And so we made that part of our program. Once I left that business for many other reasons and opened my own, I knew that I didn't just want to be another Me Too business. As an entrepreneur, I'm a believer that you don't need more than one of the same type of business in the same location in the same area, right? At least for me, I didn't want to do that, so I wanted to create something unique, and that's why we created what we started to call the winning athlete formula, which combines physical training with true mindset training and a curriculum around that mindset training.
Yeah, and I think I think those that uniqueness that you created, I think, definitely like that's evolved over time, right? So you and I met at like PFP 1.0,
That's
right?
right.
That little spot right off of like English Muffin Way, and
Yep.
then when you went to 2.0, like my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, oh my god, look at all the space, and the logo evolved, and the messaging continued to evolve, and I want you to tell this story because I think it's one of the best feel good stories that could come out of a really tough situation. But you're in like PFP 3.0 now with a complete kind of a larger evolution of your rebranding, and I feel like that happened during the pandemic. So what I really enjoyed was, in Maryland, when the pandemic happened, the governor shut down, one of the, I think maybe the first business category they shut down were fitness facilities, right? Where,
Yeah.
and I called you as soon as I heard, and um, was expecting your head in your hands and not knowing what to do. And within 6 hours, you had a full plan. And the plan was client focused and client centric, right? It wasn't, you didn't go into double down on a global pandemic. You went in to serve your client base, and great things happen from that. Talk to me a little bit about from the point when you heard the governor was shutting down, kind of until further notice, fitness facilities. Walk me through the story of how you came up with your plan and how that kind of got you into PFP 3.0.
Yeah. Well, this is a testament to a few things, a testament to God's grace for one, a testament to our team, and then a testament to our clients, our members. And honestly, we didn't really have to the tactical execution changed, but the why behind it and the values didn't have to change. We didn't have to come up with a new strategy. The strategy has always been do whatever it takes to serve clients as deeply and as well as we can. As we serve more people, we want to make sure we don't lose the depth of impact. And anytime we've sensed that along the way, we've tried to pause things and say, we're not getting as deep of an impact as we once were. The transformation is not quite as good as it once was. And so when the pandemic hit, it was kind of cool because none of our team members really panicked. Everybody knew why to do it. They didn't know what to do specifically, but they knew why to, and that was so much more important. And so everybody had a heart ready to serve. Our whole team was willing to stay up until, I mean, one of our team members stayed up until midnight, maybe 1 a.m. the night of the pandemic, building out our whole online training system, right, to be able to serve our clients on Zoom the very next morning. And one of our core values is bring the joy. So we had a lot of fun figuring out, how are we going to bring the joy over Zoom? You name it. We just looked at our core values and we said, how do we do training virtually through our core values? And another thing that we did was, the pay what you can model for our members. But that was something that we historically had done anyway when a client wasn't able to afford our services, or if there was a kid who couldn't, that wasn't financially in a position where they could do training, we still would serve them anyway. So once the pandemic hit, we decided, hey, let's make this known. Let's tell all of our members and our past members, if your kid is struggling right now, which every kid struggled, every adult struggled over the pandemic, and you need some encouragement, you need your fitness, you need that mindset and motivation, we'll serve you for whatever you can afford to pay. And so I think that was a big piece of the equation for sure.
It was. And I'm also here on this day and this time to say you were right. Because I remember when I called you, you had the plan. You said, we're going to do a pay what you can aspect to it. And and I didn't think it was a good idea at first. I was hesitant because you said, we didn't freak out during the pandemic. I was freaking out. I was freaking out for all my clients. So when you said that, I'm like, hold the line, but egg on my face, because I think what that did was, even though perhaps, because when you think about that, a pay-as-you-go model in a global or a pay-what-you-can model in a global pandemic, that's tough because a lot of people were laid off, lost their jobs. There was a lot of economic struggle, and what you did was you allowed our youth to be able to have like that routine and normalcy. And one interesting thing is out of this, just as a byproduct that I didn't see coming. I mean, this is a case study of success, is as your youth athletes are working out online with you and their parents are watching their youth athlete working out, they got interested in wanting to become physically fit as well. And I'm correct in saying that
Sure, yeah.
the adult side of things, that was just a new area of opportunity that kind of birthed out of this really tough situation, and partially kind of attributed to this huge space that you have now. I mean, you get more clients, need more space, and you did that just by being kind, which is
Hmm.
not common,
Yeah.
and incredibly commendable. Talk to me a little bit about how it helped grow your your adult following, because that you had some, but I mean it definitely wasn't what it is today. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, probably in the first like 72 to 96 hours, 3 to 4 days once the pandemic hit and once everything got shut down, we had a lot of people calling in saying, hey, we're going to have to put our membership on hold. And then we would let them know about the pay what you can. And, some of them would stay. But then after about 3 to 4 days, we started growing in clientele. People started hearing about the virtual experience and what we were doing, and they started to either come back, or once they experienced it, they started to refer people to come in and to be part of it as well. Again, testament to our rock star coaches and customer service team. It was funny, our customer service team, as people were jumping on Zoom, they were like greeting people as if it was in the actual gym, right? Doing the same exact thing, but over Zoom. And so, yeah, I mean, it was amazing, man, to watch, and it's super humbling because, again, like this is an incredible team, but we can't take credit for this, right? It was like we were in the right place at the right time because we grew over the pandemic to the point where, like you had mentioned, we had to make a decision because I want to say, around August of 2020, our lease was coming to an end at our old spot, and we started to see things trending in a better direction, and we were like, man, like and we already knew that we were getting stretched in our old space, and we were like, man, like if we're growing over the pandemic, we know it's risky, but should we consider expanding? And the crazy thing was our whole team was like, let's do it. And like everybody else in the fitness industry was like, stay put or shut down your business, file bankruptcy, collect that money, whatever. So yeah, the team was all about it, and so we made the decision to expand way more than I thought we initially were going to expand by. I thought we were just going to add a few thousand square feet, and we ended up going from 5,000 square feet to 17,000 square feet. And I mean, within a year after expanding, we were already, filling up the space pretty good. So that's what happened.
Yeah, and the space is incredible. It's as I work with the youth athletes to tell their story in the Athlete of the Month campaign, I always ask, like, talk to me about the community side of PFP. And one big part of that is just the unique space that you have. It is, as soon as you walk in the door, you have a director of first impressions welcoming you. You have your coach ready to train you. It's bright, it's vibrant. You have the My Zone application, like it feels like 100 feet by 100 feet projected on the wall, so people can see what their heart rate is, and they can earn MEPs, earn rewards by doing that. Free area, two turf areas. I mean, it's massive. It is unlike any other place, gym or otherwise, that I've ever been to. And I think that I think that is also just a big part of just kind of how the communities come together. And with that, you quickly became, as I'm a fly on the wall kind of watching your growth. You quickly became a like a subject matter expert and a well-known expert within the health and fitness industry, and especially with like youth athletes and what you were doing. And that started prompting you to look beyond the gym side of things and publish a book, about what coaches and parents of youth athletes need to know, in this crazy world. Your first book. Talk to me a little bit about what made you want to publish a book, and a little bit about what that first book, because that's one of two that you've published. Talk
Sure.
a little bit about that. What that first book touches on.
I'm going to try to condense this down as short and sweet as I can for you. So 2009, I started in the sports performance industry. 6 months after I started, I was invited to a soccer game of one of the athletes that I worked with. Their parents invited me to come watch. And within 2 minutes of me stepping onto the field, into the bleachers, I heard the most horrifying sound in the world to me, and it was the blood-curdling scream of an overzealous coach berating one of the young men on the soccer field for messing up on a play. And I'm not going to repeat what he said or yell as loud as he said it, but it was something along the lines of, "Johnny, that was a stupid play, get off the field." And Johnny puts his head down, walks off the field. After the game, Johnny's parents were embarrassed themselves, and so what did they do? They decided to point their fingers in Johnny's face and berate him in front of his teammates as they watched for how he didn't perform the way he should have performed. And Kevin, this was a 9-year-old rec soccer game.
Man.
And for me, that was like my thing that broke my heart. I had never quite felt something like that before, and I think all of us have one of those things in our lives where when you see it happening, it breaks your heart. And for me, I just knew, like, kids having their confidence beat down by coaches, families that are being torn apart by sports, because the parents, knowingly or unknowingly, most of the times unknowingly, are putting pressure on their kids. Like, it was a lot for me. And so I knew that was going to be part of my mission alongside of the fitness piece. And so for years, man, I would meet with parents, meet with kids one-on-one, trying to help them in these off the training floor and off the sports field areas. And we found, just as a team, like, we were very good at that. And so it was quite a few years that we were doing that as a team, that I was sitting down with the parents and athletes and trying to help them through these struggles mentally, emotionally, and just help them be better, higher performers in life, habits, success mindset, all these things, right? I wanted to combine it all. And so from about 2014 to 2018, we were doubling down on this. And then my dad, as you know, got sick in March of 2018 with lung cancer.
Yeah.
6 months later, he passed away. And I was sitting down at my kitchen table about a week after he passed away, and I was reading a devotional by a guy named Mark Batterson, who wrote a book, Chase the Lion. And in this devotional, he said the reason he writes books is because they're for his children's children's children. He writes them so that his great 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 grandkids can experience and know what their great 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 grandfather stood for. We all have a mission, we all have a message to share, and it's unique to us. No two people have the exact same mission in life. And so he writes these books because they're like time capsules. And as soon as I read that, man, I immediately felt convicted, like I need to write this book about youth sports, the problems that I'm seeing. I need to write it to parents and coaches to tell the truth about what's going on, and then offer up some solutions for both parents and coaches. And so we published that book in 2020.
And as you're writing that book, I knew at the time you were writing it, you kind of, confidentially kind of teased like, hey, heads up, I'm writing a book. And I'm saying, amongst everything else you're doing, how I've always appreciated your ability to manage time for less experienced business owners. This is a good kind of lesson learned moment for less experienced business owners. What do they need to know about time management? Because you're doing like big things and big projects like in parallel of each other, right? It to me
Yeah.
it seems exhausting, and I'm just watching it, and you're in the thick of it. Talk to me a little bit about how you manage that.
Well, full disclosure, in 2017, I tried to launch not a book, but I tried to launch some other courses and products, and it buried me. And it's not because I didn't do good at time management. I did great at managing all my tasks and responsibilities in 2017, to the point that I was booked up from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day of the week. And what I learned was it's not about time management, it's about people. If you get the right people on your team and you're willing to let go and delegate and elevate, then you can accomplish a lot. And so one of the hardest things that I have to do, as I know the vision that we have for this business is so big, the hardest thing I have to do is give up things that I am good at and that I like doing, to be able to do the things that only I can do. And so that's really what it comes down to. And I'm not perfect at it, but if I didn't do that, then I wouldn't be able to write books, because the first book that I wrote, that one was hard to balance with time, but I was a little bit better and I was able to do it. The second book that I wrote, man, it was like I was able to focus on it so well because I didn't have 1,000 other things to do.
Yeah, and that book is Athlete, I'm Talking to You,
Hmm.
which is another bestseller. You put out a best-selling book, amongst every other things, and now you put out a second one. Talk a little bit about what Athlete, I'm Talking to You is about.
Yeah, well, it was in response to the suicides that were happening amongst college athletes in 2022. There was a span of 3 months where every time you turned on the news, it was another college athlete taking his or her own life. And the reason every single time was sports and the pressure and the expectations. It's become too heavy, and I'd rather not be here. That's how bad it's gotten. And so it was a very different message than the youth truth, but the two work together. And so, athlete, I'm talking to you. I wanted to help the student athletes out there who thought that their mental health was in the hands of society, coaches, and parents. Right? Like, in order for my mental health as an athlete to be better, my parents have to change, my coaches have to be better, and society has to stop putting this pressure on me. And I was like, no, 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 like there's a better way. You can take back control of your own mindset. Here are 7 hacks that I found, athletes who can manage it all and don't feel this weight. These are 7 hacks that these athletes do really well. And so I wrote that book. And probably the best part about that book was the 5 college, maybe 6, the 6 college athletes that shared their personal testimony in the book.
I was literally getting ready to say, I was waiting to hear what you said, because I'm like, what I think's the coolest is that it's real life case studies,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And it's athletes that you have worked with, that are a testament to all of the amazing work that you and your team does. And you mentioned, like, you mention your team a lot, and it's because you have a rock star team,
We do.
and your team's incredibly engaged and focused and unified on just the overarching mission. It almost feels like in the best way possible. It feels like it's like a hive mind. Like everyone is just so in sync. Everyone's bought into such a great mission and message. What are your tips on managing a growing team and keeping everyone motivated, engaged, inspired, and just have a positive outlook to continue to move forward? Because your athletes, as I talk to them, they're attributing like your coaches, your team, they're mentors to these youth athletes, and that's huge. Talk to me a little bit about how you address that.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that for sure. I think that um, it's the first thing that comes to mind is everything rises and falls on leadership. And so I think that the leaders that we select on this team, we're very intentional about who we promote into leadership positions. But then also, I think there's a couple aspects of number one, some people are really good at management, some people are really good at leadership, and the two things are very different. I am very good at casting vision and sharing the stories of transformation and keeping the team fired up and motivated by knowing their why and knowing why we do what we do. Like that's my job. And then I've empowered the leaders of each location and I'm trying to teach them how to do the same thing. But then we have people on our team that are incredible at the management side of leadership too, and they can organize projects and they can organize the people for those projects. And I am not good at that part. And so we've created a very, very good accountability chart, which is different than an organizational chart. An organizational chart says who are all the people we have on the team, and then let's just put them in a position. The accountability chart says what are the most important functions of the business, and then let's put the right person in each function. And so for us, we've identified the functions, and one of them being we got to have a visionary who is constantly sharing the vision over and over again until they're sick of it and everyone else is sick of hearing it. And so that's a big part of it for us.
Sure, sure. So you mentioned a few seconds ago, like, it all starts with leadership, right? You've
Yeah.
always been, I've always, again, as a fly on the wall and as kind of as just an admirer of your success, you've always hovered around personal and professional growth,
Hmm.
right? It's who are you following, you know, uh, who are you following on social media that you're pulling inspiration from, or what influencers out there, or just what mentor of yours out there could others uh, engage with or follow with to learn all of the valuable lessons that you've learned?
Yeah. John Maxwell, Alex Judd, Craig Rochelle, um, Tony Robbins is a good one. There's a lot of guys that come to mind, but yeah, I definitely growth is one of my core values for sure. It's gotten me in trouble at times also because sometimes you can just keep trying to grow, 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 and not appreciate where you're at and celebrate progress along the way, which you and I have talked about before.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I definitely have a lot of great mentors in my life, and then local mentors, people that live around me that have poured into me. Scott Reiser, David Weigelt. There's a lot of great people that I've learned from along the way.
Scott Reiser is such an interesting guy. I went
Yeah,
I went through
yeah, for
leadership
sure.
Frederick with him. I went through leadership
Okay.
Frederick, and man, just so elliptical in his thinking, which is awesome because I tend to my comfort zones being linear, right? Like I
Uh
know
huh.
where I need to be, and but he's so elliptical. He has that common visionary quality that you do, and I think that's a quality that helped, beyond going from PFP 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. You've now gone from, having PFP Frederick to also having PFP Eldersburg. You've put out, I think this is public because I saw it on social, that you're looking for the next site leader for for a third location. You're continuing just to grow and grow. Talk to me about, let's start with like the next year. Talk to me about what your goals and aspirations are for 2024.
Yeah, so my business partner, Joe, who is the polar opposite of me, and that is such a good thing. We are very different in business and have different strengths and skills, and we complement each other. He is very focused on the expansion of PFP, opening up the third and fourth locations, we think, potentially next year. A much smaller model. These are not 17,000 square foot businesses. So it's a lot easier to open up a couple at a time, but we're going to plan to open up two next year. If the right people come along, it's all about the people. So if we get a great leader and a great coach and people that are going to serve that community and we can see them really creating something special, our vision is a fitness lighthouse in every community, transforming lives for the glory of God. That's our vision. And so as long as we have the right people in place that can fulfill that vision, we think that we could open up 2 next year. And I may be, it just seems like it's what we've done every time. I may be writing another book here in the near future. It's
Of
like
course you are.
once we opened the second location, I wrote a second book and released it like 2 months later, and then it's like it's looking like it might be the same thing with the third location. So I don't know. I'll keep you posted on that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to, so you actually hinted at something like, third, maybe fourth, depending, because it's all about the site leader and
Yeah.
identifying the right fit. Um, I'm so, I love seeing the decisions that you make and the moves that you make because like I see the strategy, I see the thought and intent in it. I want you to talk a little bit about like so when you open PFP Eldersburg, Chris
Hmm.
Johnson, who gold standard coach at the PFP
Yeah.
Frederick location, he's named site leader of Eldersburg. Talk to me a little bit about how you identified him as a fitting leader for your second location. Like, what did you look for to make that decision?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the crazy thing is, like, he was definitely one of the people that we are considering because, like, you know, it's like you have one team in one location, so you're going to be taking somebody that's essential and that's incredible out of that. Like, it's inevitable. But he actually came to us one day and was like, "Hey, I feel like I'm really being called to go out to Eldersburg." We're like, "What?" Like we didn't see that coming. And so once he came to us and said that, we knew he was the right fit because, well, for one, he checks the boxes on all of our core values. He had been in the industry as a fitness professional for, I think, like 10 or 11 years at the time. And he just had a lot of, he had the quality of quiet leadership, I think I would say, this humble, quiet leadership where we knew he was going to do a great job and he was going to have that owner's mentality that we look for. But he was going to do it differently than I might do it, or than Joe might do it, or than somebody else might do it, and that's okay, right? Because we've got absolutes at PFP. These are things that must happen. We've got best practices. Like here are the things that we believe are best practices, and then we have personal preferences, right? Here's my personal preference on how to lead this meeting. But it's not the way that you have to lead this meeting, right? So we've started to kind of differentiate between those three things, and it's been really helpful because I think I used to be as a leader. I used to be like, it all has to be done an exact way of excellence, right? It's got to be the highest standard. And we haven't changed having high standards, but now I've just kind of learned that, it doesn't have to be done the exact way I would do it in order for it to still be done well. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat, if you will.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So I want to treat this last part like you're one of the youth athletes that I interview every month because Andrew uh shines positive lights every month on an athlete of the month program. It features the athlete and the athlete's story, with the direction by you to me on feature the athlete, not PFP, which is incredible. So I always ask the youth athletes if you could tell your younger self something to make your younger self just a little more comfortable in the idea of what's going to be happening ahead. What would you tell your past self about, where they'll be and what they'll become?
Hmm. Can you reframe the question? My mind went in a lot of places. It's probably my fault, not yours.
Yeah, no. What's one thing that you would tell your younger self, or teach, piece of advice you'd give to your younger self now that you have all this experience and are continuing to
Mhm.
grow? What would you tell your younger self, or a piece of advice to help your younger self?
Yeah. I think one thing would be to prioritize peace. It's something that is very rare in business, I think, today, and it's even rarer in a growing business. But it's a thing we're super intentional about. We want our team to feel a sense of peace and stability amongst growth, right? Because we think that both are possible. And so I think I would tell myself prioritize peace individually as an entrepreneur and as a business owner because whatever I am feeling tends to be what the organization takes on. And so I underestimated for a long time how my personal moods, attitudes, um, tendencies were spilling over into every part of our organization. So that would be one thing. And then the second thing would probably be what I shared with you earlier that I didn't learn until 2018, which is it's painful to give things up and to delegate and to trust people. Like there's an element of what my mentor says, puck, pain, uncertainty, and chaos that you have to endure, PUC. There is an element of that, but it beats the heck out of trying to carry the weight of the world on your own shoulders and do it all yourself. And if you don't trust in that, then 10 to 15 years from now, you're going to have to be forced to realize that that's the reality. So those would probably be the two things from a business standpoint.
That's a great answer. I just learned something. That's awesome. That's awesome. So last question. For those that don't know about PFP, what do you want to what do you want them to know about PFP, and bonus points if you start it with PFP is more than just a gym.
I love this. PFP is more than just a gym, and you're going to have to find out for yourself when you come into a local PFP that comes to you.
That's perfect. That's perfect because once you walk inside the doors, it'll all become very, very clear. It's just a place like no other. It's my gym. It's a lot of people's gym. It's a community. For some, it's a sanctuary. You know, it's just it serves as all of these different things for different people based on, you know, those people's needs. It's incredible. What you've done is what you and your team have done is so commendable. And I will always wish you the most congratulations on what you're doing and well wishes as you guys continue to grow. And I talk about you as a success story on how businesses do it right. So as we finish up our time, and this has been great. I hope you've had fun with this. Talk to me a little bit about, for those that want to purchase either of your books or learn more about you. Obviously, there's, you know, pfpfit.com or playersfitnessandperformance.com. Either will get you to the website, but there's also andrewjsimpson.com where you can learn a bit more about you and your brand as an expert in the community. Talk to me a little bit about where people can learn more about you and you know, get your books.
Yeah, well, what people have benefited most from, I guess, from me directly is the blogs that I put out. So you can definitely go to andrewjsimpson.com and jump on our blog and get the free content there. I also give the Youth Truth book away for free now, and that's audiobook and ebook version. So if you just go to andrewjsimpson.com/free book, you don't have to enter your email or phone number. You don't have to opt in or anything like that. You can just get the book. I want you to get the content because it's about the mission to transform youth sports right now. And then other things that you can hook up with me on that website on. And social media is definitely a great place to follow me because I'm pretty active there. So I believe Facebook is /AndrewSimpson04 if you want to get me there. And then Instagram is Coach Andrew Simpson. Yeah, Coach Andrew Simpson.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if anyone listening, if you are in the Frederick, Maryland DMA, in the Eldersburg, Maryland DMA, so Frederick County, Carroll County, if you have a kid in sports at any level, check out PFP. The feedback that I get to hear from the athletes is just nothing but so incredible. You know, life-changing values that they will learn that they can apply in college, after college, just in life. What you guys do is incredible. Thank you for not veering away from your mission and staying on that center line. I think it's just, you serve the community in such a great way. And I'm so excited to see what you do next.
Well, I've mentioned the team a lot today, and you may not be on our payroll, Kevin, but you've been part of our team in a big, big way for the last 9 years. And so we couldn't have done it without you either. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Got it.
Yeah, no, you guys are, I tell you this a lot. I hope it's not weird, but you guys are like extended family. You're like a brother from another mother. I have learned so much from you. For anyone listening, there is so much to learn from just what Andrew knows and the content he puts out, which is just a metric ton of just high quality content. So definitely check him out. And yeah, onward and upward. I'm excited about 2024 and going forward.
Right back at you.
All right. Well, that is it. Thank you, everyone, for listening in, and check out our other podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. Take it easy. Five Dubs Marketing Pros is hosted by me, Kevin Berrier. Our executive producer is MDDC Executive Director Rebecca Snyder. Post-production by Caroline Pecora. Our theme music is by Azulu Studio. A special thank you to our guests for being with us. You can find Five Dubs and Five Dubs Marketing Pros on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast.